I've been wanting to cover Chrono Trigger on this channel for a while now, but it was hard to find the right angle. Should I talk about the time travel? The multiple endings? Maybe the revolutionary combat? Well, the game answered for me. When you boot up Chrono Trigger, the first thing you see is a photo of the party. They're smiling, they're happy. Their friendship is on full display.
Did someone say friendship? Friendship Man is here to help with whatever you may need, because there's nothing more powerful than helping those you care about.
Our cheaply costumed hero is right. Beyond any sword or tech or magic spell, friendship is Chrono Trigger's greatest weapon. What better way to talk about friendship than with a friend of my own? My buddy T.L. Foster and I have been friends for a long time now.
Almost like 13, 14 years old. Like, if we had a kid, it would be like a teenager right now.
And I've been wanting to get him onto the channel since it launched. He's a bit of a Chrono Trigger enthusiast.
It just became a game that I fell deeply and madly in love with, and a story that just spoke to me as someone who was, much younger, kind of learning about themselves, like being able to then get your hand on a game and be like, oh, wait, this is like how you feel about identity. This is like my ideals. And it's just such a great game to kind of showcase that. Like I said, I honestly think it is one of the greatest video games to ever be made.
Identity and ideals and who you are as a person are huge reasons why the relationships in Chrono Trigger feel so strong. It plays out not only in the plot and side quests, but also in combat. We can see this from the very beginning of the game. When Crono wakes up and leaves his house, Lucca is name-dropped almost immediately as your young inventress friend.
This is like this Spitfire inventor who is way smarter than she has like any need for, but like she is this person who is like not sure about situations, is a little cocky because hey, I'm smarter, but like can like have those self-doubts.
We see evidence of all that in the opening act at the Millennial Fair.
Millennial Fair? Gen X parties are so much better. I'm kidding, I believe children are the future.
Lucca's smarts are on full display with the game's first combat encounter against Gato. This singing robot was built by Lucca, hello foreshadowing, and she also made the telepad with her father. Understandably, no one at the fair wants to give her teleporting machine a try, but Crono does. He offers support for his friend simply by being a willing test subject. There's a good level of trust there. You can imagine that he's been the guinea pig for her in the past. That trust is an essential part of friendship, and it helps her fight the self-doubt that TL mentioned by stepping up and giving her latest invention a try. Her confidence is clearly higher by the time the party reaches the future, as she jumps at the chance to repair Robo when you find him sitting abandoned inside a dome. She already built Gato in her own time period, and she clearly has a soft spot for Robo as a result. There's an instant bond between the two of them. We see that sort of thing a few times in this game actually. The whole party is cohesive, but bonds are forged at different paces. Just look at Lucca's own dynamic with Frog. Upon first meeting him, she has a feeling of revulsion, not wanting to be near his slimy amphibious body. It makes thematic sense too, given the way magic works in this game.
Lucca being represented by that fire too. Like in anime, there's the trope of like the red and blue character, right? Like your Naruto and Sasuke.
Party members represent various elements, and like TL just said, Lucca is the embodiment of fire. Frog is water, and those are natural opposites. They don't mix, just like Lucca and Frog don't jive at first. But given enough time in combat and dungeon delving, their dynamic changes. Frog is a temporary party member at first, and when he departs, we see that he's helped Lucca grow. She runs after him for a moment, and acknowledges that frogs aren't so bad after all. Lucca isn't the only person you run into at the fair. You can literally run into Marle, the free-spirited princess of the kingdom. Some pairings happen quickly in Chrono Trigger, and this is one of them. Marle is looking for some fun, you're at the fair too, so you must be the person to hang out with. There's an instant spark between her and Crono, and sure, you can chalk that up to the fact that she's the romantic interest, but she hits it off with Lucca too. Marle getting zapped through time is the inciting incident of the whole game, and Lucca and Crono immediately decide to do something about it.
This story starts where you literally have to leap through time. And then, like, you're this group who's going to go save this girl that you just met, and then as soon as you come out, you go to jail, and then it's this girl and your friend going to break you out of jail.
Jailbreaking? I don't think I can permit that. Although I suppose this is a fictional story, and I'm a real man and superhero.
Marle is zapped back to the Middle Ages, and when you reach the castle to save her, your new relationship comes in handy. Crono and Lucca are trespassers in the castle, but Marle, specifically calling them friends, gets them out of a bind with the guards. If Lucca represents an established friendship full of trust, then Marle is the immediate positive reinforcement that comes from instant chemistry between newly acquainted people.
It's this character of, like, boundless optimism, which is really, really great. Giggly, like, effervescent character who's, like, part of royalty, but she's royalty, but she'll go down there, she'll fight.
Marle definitely does fight for her new friends. She stood up for them at the castle in the past, and she does the same thing at her own castle in the present. When Crono is put on trial, she defends him to the end, or in this case, to the imprisonment. Whether you fight your way out of prison alone or with Lucca's help, the bonds between this core trio are strongly established early on as they constantly bail each other out. There's a reason their magic elements combine into such a powerful triple tech, one of the first ones you'll probably unlock. Delta Force incorporates fire, ice, and lightning, which are like the primary colors of magic for RPGs. Marle's constant affirmations play out in her side quests too. Some of the best gear in the whole game is forged from the Rainbow Shell, a magical stone that, by all rights in this world, belongs to her and her royal family. But when the time comes to make new gear from it, you don't just have to forge a single super powerful dress for Marle. Instead, you can make a trio of helmets for the whole party to share. Marle's support for the group is clear from the get-go, and it's cemented after only a few story beats when the core trio escapes through a time portal to the future. And that's where we meet Robo. As mentioned before, Lucca has an instant bond with him as she repairs him, and the feeling is mutual. He immediately wants to pay her back by helping the party in their quest.
Not only do you have this robot, like this dilapidated robot who just wants to learn about humans and wants to study. It's, to me, one of the funniest things is, like, the first boss fight are, like, these other robots who are bullying him for being around humans, which is, like, that's a weird thing, but it works within that world.
Not only does it work, it's a microcosm of what Robo represents in this game. In my eyes, he demonstrates what it means to find your tribe. He knows he wants to be around and study humans, and for that, he's punished by his fellow robots in the name of defects. His friends, as he initially calls them, turn out to be his enemies.
I won't stand for any bullying. That's part of my origin story too. So were robots, funny enough.
Finding your tribe sometimes means bonding with a completely different or unexpected group of people. Robo trades his kind for humans, and they support him in turn. As a robot, he doesn't get to use all the fancy magic spells that others get, but that doesn't mean he can't lend a hand in combat. As with any combination of the 7 party members, he also has double and triple techs that are quite powerful in combat. That said, it's a solo combat moment where his character arc really shines. He has a one-on-one fight with Atropos, who's something of a sister to him. She invites him to rejoin the robot side, a stark contrast to the robots who beat him up for betraying them before. But Robo rejects this. He's fully embraced humans and doesn't want to side with the group that would see humanity wiped out. Rejecting his own programming is the ultimate proof of loyalty to the party, to the tribe he's found and joined. And it's not the only time he gives up something to help humanity. The Sunken Desert side quest is done so that the party can create a sustainable future, turning a wasteland into a fruitful forest. Robo is uniquely equipped to make that happen.
I remember playing it, and when it first happened and I cried, was when you left Robo in the past with the seed, and he just spends the whole time building, this like whole like land of just like of forest and food for people. So like in the future, like it's not just this desolate world from when Lavos came, right? Like what a beautiful character of just like kind of showing, hey, this is what like society could be.
Only Robo could spend hundreds of years tilling the fields and making such a miracle happen. Although this selfless act leads to humanity building him his own shrine, it still causes him to break down and cease functioning, reverting him back to the same state in which Lucca found him. Thankfully, she can fix him right up again, and this leads to another touching moment between the two. Lucca's flashback to her mom's horrible accident is quite troubling, but when she returns, Robo is there to cheer her up. He hands over the Green Dream accessory, a great piece of gear made from the very same trees he helped plant. Speaking of green things, let's talk about Frog again.
Frog is literally like kind of speaks to our generation, like of self-doubt. Like, can you live up to the legacy you have? And to those people, they think that this is Cyrus, like the hero.
I agree with everything TL says here. Frog starts in a very gloomy place. Picture the damp, depressing image of pouring rain. Then think about how Frog's magic element is water. People believe he's the deceased knight Cyrus, when he's actually Cyrus's squire Glenn. Furthermore, he fails to be a hero himself, at least in his own eyes, by allowing the queen to be kidnapped. Even after saving her, he doesn't feel worthy of being a part of this team, so he leaves. He's wallowing in the self-doubt that TL mentioned. While all party members are supported by the others, Frog's arc shows how friends sometimes need to band together to bring one of their squad out of a dark place. This isn't a cure-all for depression in real life by any means, but often just being present or performing an act of service for a friend can go a long way.
It's true. We can all be a hero by helping a friend in need.
And that's exactly what the party does to recruit Frog as a permanent member. First, they bring him the hero's badge to remind him that he is indeed a hero to many. He did save the queen after all. But the badge isn't enough. In fact, it only gets you access to the hilt of the Masamune, the legendary blade that Frog's master Cyrus wielded. That's the gift that will actually bring him out of his depression, and it's not an easy thing to earn. The party has to prove itself to Masa and Mune, and then to their fused form, before the magical brothers will grant them the completed sword. All of this effort put into showing Frog that he does have folks who care about him is simply beautiful, and it's what sparks him to get off his bullfrog butt and do something.
One of the most important scenes in that game to me is the forging of Masamune. And like his whole thing of like, I can't wield this. Like I'm not good enough to wield this. And like him having to be like, no, fuck, like this is what I'm supposed to do, right? Like I have to do this thing.
With that realization, Frog is so empowered by determination and support from his friends that he literally splits open a mountain to open the path forward. At that point, the party can finally confront Magus, the evil wizard who cursed Frog with this amphibious form in the first place. We'll talk more about Magus in a moment, because there's another party member to cover first. Ayla has my favorite debut in the whole game. She shows up, beats down these tough dinosaurs surrounding the party, and immediately pins Crono to the cliffside, out of a need to defend her land from these strange intruders. But immediately after, she acknowledges their collective strength and welcomes them with open arms, bringing them to her tribal village for a night of drinking and dancing.
The whole thing that works with her is that she is just, I'm just trying to live, right? And I think that's like, it's such a freeing thing.
Marle is a free spirit too, but where she's all about affirmation and positivity for her friends, Ayla is a driving force to make everyone better, and in video game terms, stronger. Ayla is the strength-based barbarian build, tearing apart enemies with her bare hands. The hunting grounds near her village represent this environmentally, with endless enemies to hunt down and harvest for resources. You can picture her training here in the days before her time as tribal chief, growing stronger and stronger by fighting prehistoric wildlife. Ayla opens up her home and her lands to the party, and they return the favor. The neighboring village is burned down by the powerful reptites that lord over this region, and the party joins Ayla in bringing them down. This cycle of help and repayment continues when side quests come into play, as Ayla offers some powerful armor that you can get by trading more of those hunting resources. This reinforces not just her camaraderie to the party, but also her desire to see everyone grow stronger.
She's just pure id, and I love characters that are just pure id.
Pure id is a great way to put it. Basic primal instincts are what Ayla is all about. Some may see that as a detriment. It precludes her from learning magic, for example, but it's what makes her the go-to leader in certain circumstances. Strength got her the job as tribal chief, and it's her greatest asset when you get kidnapped by Dalton later in the game. Without their gear, the rest of the party is unable to take actions in combat, but Ayla is free to continue tearing away at the bad guys.
I really do admire a strong woman. Too bad we're separated by thousands of years.
And it's not like Ayla is exempt from using techs with her friends anyway. She has cool crossovers with Crono, Frog, and others, plus plenty of her own support moves. She might not have access to magic herself, but she can support the spellcasters with brute force. On the opposite side of the spectrum is Magus, the most magic-y party member, and the only one you can miss if you make the wrong choice. He's a special case, too, because he's a villain for the majority of the game. He's worshipped by the fiends that you battle throughout most of the chapters, and he's talked about in hushed tones by the townspeople who fear him. Again, he's the one who cursed Frog, and taking him down is your main motivation for a good chunk of the game. But there's more going on behind the scenes. Magus might be the embodiment of evil in this world, but he's not all bad.
Like having someone who could have that conflict of, I'm a bad guy, I'm doing legitimately bad things, but for a better reason.
As you'll find out later in the game, Magus isn't summoning Lavos to end the world. He's summoning it because it destroyed his ancient home and he wants revenge. In the same way that Ayla wants to get back at the Reptites or Frog wants to get back at Magus himself, this is a character who wants justice for a tragedy. But because he's seen as a villain, it can be harder to understand the intentions behind his actions. It's really easy to fight him again as you're gearing up for the final act. But if you choose to spare him instead, he'll come to an important realization.
Magus is a character who is fighting for people that he feels are going to be downtrodden because he literally lived through a genocide. He lived through a whole country being wiped. Of having to deal with that and realizing the thing that I'm doing is wrong. I need to rethink what I'm doing, and these guys know what to do.
If you show Magus mercy, he'll realize that your side is the winning side. Each party member represents a different aspect of friendship, and I see Magus as a symbol of forgiveness. What happened between him and the party isn't easy to forgive. I mean, for the third time, he turned one of your friends into a frog. But if you can find it in your heart to sympathize with his cause and work together, he and Frog have the opportunity to fight side by side against a greater threat.
You know, I have a nemesis called Enemy Man. I've never tried talking it out with him, but maybe I should.
The opposite happens with Magus's army of fiends, however. His side quest involves returning to his old headquarters, which has now become Ozzy's fort. Even without Magus around, his generals have continued to occupy this territory and carry out their evil. This parallels Robo's side quest in a way, proving that Magus is with the right group of people on the right side of the conflict now. He wasn't the center of this evil, because it didn't stop with his defeat. And by returning to fight his own generals, he solidifies his conversion and his new bond with the rest of the party. I'm sure you've noticed that we haven't discussed the title character yet. Well, kinda. Crono's name is spelled without the H. But he is the central figure of the game, the core of the adventuring party, and it's easy to overlook the contributions he makes because he is the typical silent RPG protagonist. But because he's largely a blank slate, your decisions let you project yourself onto him and be the hero. Think back to when you ran around the Millennial Fair with Marle. While it might not seem like it, there are several permutations for how those scenes play out.
Do you run into Marle? Do you pick up the pendant? Do you try to sell the pendant before giving it back to Marle? Right? Like there's just so many things that you don't think about. But I think it makes so much because At the end of the day, that's your Chrono.
The decisions you make have consequences. And likewise, the bonds you forge aren't just for Crono as a character, but for you, the player, too.
You are building and creating those relationships. And it's your relationship with Marle or Lucca or Frog. Like, that's the stuff that you're trying to build upon.
While it's easy to play Chrono Trigger and think Lucca did this or Robo said that, it is you who are playing out Chrono's story. Of course, there is a massively pivotal moment where you don't have a choice. I'm referring, of course, to when Crono sacrifices himself to Lavos so that the others can escape.
Now that is real hero stuff. I don't have a hat to take off, and I can't remove my mask for safety of my secret identity, but know that I am being very solemn under here.
It's a sad moment amidst the chaotic confrontation between Magus and Lavos, but it's here where the party's bonds are seen once again.
Because they've been growing throughout the game, Chrono's gone, and they know that their goal is we have to bring back Chrono, but it doesn't break the party.
It's not the climax of the game, but it's the peak of all the shared growth between the party members. They are broken, but not in a way that can't be fixed. The glue is gone, but the pieces don't fall apart. So they rally together to restore what has been lost, making the party complete again by rescuing Chrono from the moment of his death. All of that might remind you of a little story called Dragon Ball.
Ah, one of my favorites. That and Fruits Basket.
I'm sure this isn't new information to anyone watching this video, but Dragon Ball creator Akira Toryiama did the art for Chrono Trigger. When it comes to manga and anime, Goku is the poster child for recruiting new friends to a cause. Think about how many villains come over to his side throughout the various series. Tien, Piccolo, Vegeta, and so many others were shown the light. I mean, Krillin straight up married Android 18. It's no coincidence that these same themes show up in Chrono Trigger.
Chrono's a Goku, right? Like, that's the joke is, like, whenever Akira Toryiama designs one of these video games, like, the literal lead character of Dragon Quest III is literally just Gohan with a sword, right?
You might be wondering why I'm bringing up a totally different property so close to the end of the video. Here's the thing. Dragon Ball is a timeless story. Whether you know it from the original series, or Z, or GT, or Super, you know the story of the Saiyans and all the world-ending threats they stop. It's one of the most popular things in the world. And so, we tell the story over and over. A story of good triumphing over evil. Of friends coming together to grow stronger. That's what makes the story of Chrono Trigger timeless too. It wasn't the first, and it's far from the only RPG to show these themes. I've talked about some of them on this very channel. But it is one of the purest ways they've ever been shown. Chrono Trigger has beautiful moments of character growth in its story beats and its battles. There are some important life lessons to be gleaned from that.
The thesis about Chrono Trigger is about, like, not only, like, being able to grow, but being able to be around those who help you. And I think, like, that's one of the things that kind of I have taken away from me. Being a better person is okay, but if I can help somebody else be a better person, I think that's great. And, like, to see these characters have to learn how to become a better person, but then, like, they're not doing it on their own, I think it resonated with me as somebody who was at 12, 13 years old, who kind of needed to hear that kind of a message. So yeah, if you get a chance, play the DS version. Definitely my favorite version of that game.
I'm gonna echo TL here and say yes, play this game. And if you already have, consider the other half of what he just said. Maybe a friend of yours could also learn something from this classic.
Ah, secret identity revealed! Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what Framework is doing, definitely hit that subscribe button in the middle. It would help me out an awful lot if you do. And if you want to see what we've already cooked up, you can hit that link on the far left. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.